In a busy factory, one small mistake near a moving machine turned routine work into a near disaster. The factory floor was lined with cables and steel rods. Workers focused on production. At the center, a rotating wire machine twisted metal into place, fast, heavy, and relentless. Close by, a woman in a red shirt stood making adjustments as it ran. As she adjusted her position, a loose piece of fabric brushed against the rollers. In an instant, the material snagged, feeding into the moving parts. The machine kept pulling relentlessly, exposing how one small contact with rotating equipment can unleash its full hazardous power before anyone has time to respond. Never, ever work close to rotating machinery with loose clothing or exposed moving parts. Machines don't forgive. A single snag can pull you in before there's time to escape. On a construction site, a steel beam slips from above, falling straight toward the workers below. The site was packed with scaffolding, columns, and rebar. Crews moved quickly, focused on their own tasks. Overhead, heavy beams were stacked and staged for lifting. No one below expected the danger waiting above. Without warning, a beam broke loose. It plunged straight down, crashing into the work zone with immense force. The ground shook as the steel struck, a chilling reminder that anyone in the drop zone has no time to escape once gravity takes over. Falling objects are one of the most dangerous threats on any job site. Gravity turns loose beams, panels, or tools into deadly hazards. The only safe practice is to secure every load at height and keep people clear of drop zones. Inside a steel plant, one mistake turns molten metal into a firestorm. The floor is busy with workers moving carefully around the furnace. In the corner, the giant container holding molten metal glows with intense heat. Every worker knows how dangerous this area is. One wrong move and disaster can strike instantly. Suddenly, the furnace overflows. A bright flash erupts as molten metal surges out, striking the ground with explosive force. In seconds, the blast fills the air with fire and smoke, turning the entire floor into a hazardous zone. What began as routine operations instantly revealed the full, unforgiving power of molten metal. Never, ever stand close to molten metal without protective barriers and strict safety checks. Molten metal doesn't forgive mistakes. Distance, shields, and awareness save lives. A stone grinder stops mid-operation. What happens next shows why unguarded machines must never be trusted. The footage comes from a construction site where a stone grinder is running, breaking down heavy rocks. For several minutes, it operates as expected. Suddenly, the machine halts, its crushing mechanism seizing up. Workers nearby notice the stoppage. One man decides to act quickly, moving toward the pit to investigate. There are no lockout systems engaged, no barriers in place, and the grinder still holds stored energy even though it appears motionless. The worker climbs inside to check the obstruction, assuming the machine was safe. But without warning, the grinder jolts back into motion, revealing the hidden energy still stored inside. In an instant, what looked like a harmless stoppage exposed the full danger of unguarded machinery. Never, ever enter or inspect a stopped grinder without first performing a full lockout tagout to ensure all energy sources are isolated. A machine that looks off can still store enough force to restart unexpectedly. Proper shutdown procedures, cutting power, releasing stored energy, and physically locking controls are the only safeguard against sudden activation. In the depths of a mine, an elevator shaft became a silent trap for 3 unsuspecting workers. Inside a dimly lit underground tunnel, workers in yellow helmets moved around the freight elevator, preparing for another shift below. The heavy gate stood open, machinery humming faintly in the background, while cables rattled in the shaft above. It was just another moment in a place where danger always lingered close by. Then, without warning, the elevator above lurched into motion, descending rapidly. The men, unaware of the hazard overhead, found themselves in the danger zone directly beneath the shaft. In an instant, the massive platform swept downward, exposing how little time underground hazards leave for reaction or escape. Never, ever position yourself beneath suspended loads or moving platforms in shafts or hoists. Gravity does not forgive. If it's above you, it can fall. Safety underground demands awareness at every second. Clear zones must be enforced, warning barriers respected, and workers trained to recognize the deadliest blind spots. On a rooftop edge, a worker moves too close to a high voltage line, and in an instant, everything changes. The worker crouched on the edge of an old building, handling what looked like routine repair work. Around him, the danger wasn't obvious, but overhead, thick power lines ran just feet away, carrying immense voltage. As he leaned forward, his body shifted closer to the line. In a split-second, contact was made. The current surged, and the invisible force of electricity took hold. There was no warning spark, just a sudden reminder of how unforgiving power lines can be. Never, ever work near exposed power lines without de-energizing them, using insulating barriers, or keeping a safe clearance. Electricity is silent, instant, and unforgiving of mistakes. At a Rio de Janeiro gas station, a quiet night turned into chaos in just seconds. It was the early hours of Saturday when a black SUV pulled in for a routine fill-up. The driver stepped out as an attendant began fueling. But unlike most cars, this SUV ran on compressed natural gas, or CNG, efficient under pressure, but carrying hidden danger if cylinders or connections fail. Moments later, the danger surfaced. The cylinder suddenly gave way, releasing gas under high pressure. In an instant, the release ignited, sending a surge of flame and smoke across the station. What began as routine fueling had escalated into a full-scale emergency. Never, ever overlook the risks of compressed gas systems. A single failure under pressure can unleash destructive force in an instant. High-pressure fuel tanks demand strict inspections, timely maintenance, and proper handling. Gas stations must enforce safety checks, and vehicle owners must service their CNG systems on schedule. On a busy factory floor, a massive steel coil shifts and suddenly tips sideways. The camera captures the heart of a workshop where heavy machinery and steel coils are part of everyday operations. Workers move confidently around the space, treating the scene as routine, but standing close to unsecured loads is never as safe as it looks. In a moment, the coil loses balance. It wasn't lifted or hanging high, it simply rolls and tips sideways. The sheer weight of the metal crashes into the floor, expanding the danger zone around it. What looked stable 1 second turns into a sudden hazard the next. Never, ever assume a heavy load will stay upright on its own. Even a small shift in balance can turn thousands of pounds of material into a dangerous moving force. One small misstep during loading turned a routine task into a sudden near miss. On a sunny afternoon, a forklift operator carefully lowered a heavy stack of bagged material onto the back of a flatbed truck. Inside the truck bed, a worker stood close by, ready to arrange the load once it settled. To him, it felt like just another job. But the mix of height, heavy cargo, and limited footing made the situation fragile. As the forklift lowered the pallet, the worker shifted to keep clear. With little room to move, his foot slipped near the edge. In seconds, he lost balance and toppled from the truck bed. What began as a routine adjustment instantly revealed the hidden hazard of limited footing at height. Never, ever stand on or near the edge of a truck bed while loading is underway. One slip is all it takes for a fall. Stay clear until the forklift has set the load down, then step in to secure it. Distance and timing are what keep routine tasks from turning into accidents. At a shipping yard, one wrong offloading move turned into a sudden and dangerous fall from above. It was late, and workers were unloading cargo from the top of a container. The ground below was busy, with another worker walking directly into the drop zone. Instead of using proper equipment or guiding the load safely, the object was pushed toward the edge. With no warning, the heavy piece slipped free and tumbled straight down. In seconds, the space below turned into a danger zone. The impact scattered debris across the area that had been left unguarded. Never, ever offload heavy items from height without first checking that the ground is completely clear. Every load must be lowered in a controlled way, with equipment, signals, and clear zones. A simple check of the area below can prevent accidents that happen in seconds. Don't unload blindly. Secure the process, clear the zone, and stay safe. Don't forget to share what you learned today in the comments. Your insight could save a life. Take care.